What if the world didn't have any colors? You know what I mean? And we just saw faces with no colors. Then we will all love each other. But because we're
Black, gay,
mixed,
Muslim, Persian,
transgender,
Hispanic.
It's like that's what we look at first before we look at that person.
Once called The Asylum to the Persecuted by constitutional author James Madison, the story of America is one peppered with instances of intolerance and prejudice. Each generation has been challenged with the problem of creating a safe haven that lacks the thorn of persecution, and time again comes up short. Today's political rhetoric doesn't sound all that different from the voices of our past, voices of prejudice, hatred, and fear.
People are afraid of difference, and so you have fear, and naturally we stay away from the things that we fear. The fear is based on stereotypes, it's based on bias, it's based on what we don't know, and people are afraid of that.
In past decades, the millennial generation was surrounded by the message that differences are something to be celebrated. Yet the actions of many seem to suggest that differences are something to fear.
I definitely did feel, different, but it's hard to understand and pinpoint exactly what that was.
Today's students offer a unique perspective of what it means to live life in the turmoil of being at odds with a dominant culture.
My dad's black and my mom's white. And growing up as a little kid, I never really thought about race in any way other than like that's just how people look.
When I would go to a white friend's house, their parents would make comments. Like if we wanted to hang out with boys, oh, well, y'all are not bringing black boys to my house. And it's like, well, I'm black. You know what I mean? So what do black boys have to do with, like, are they gonna hurt us?
Sometimes I would wonder why they would say these things to me, but I guess it's because of my ethnicity and the color of my skin. And I guess some kids didn't want to hang out with me because I'm tan and Hispanic.
My dad is from Pakistan, so that's where I get the Asian and Islamic culture. My dad always told me, you know what, we are not bad people. Don't listen to the media, we are not bad people.
It was after a terrorist attack had happened in India, and one kid stood up and asked me, are your parents terrorists? They assume that I'm just a very masculine woman who is unhappy with herself, in quotes, because those are my pronouns.
In a modern society that prides itself on equality, justice, and individual liberties, students often encounter attitudes that many believe were buried long ago in our past. How do experiences of students today contrast with the political rhetoric that claims racism and bigotry no longer exist?
There was a girl when I was in 8th grade that I really liked and I wanted to date, and she couldn't date me because my dad was black.
Everywhere I go, there's always somebody racist and stereotyping me and friends for what we look and dress like.
You're broke. You live in the ghetto. You're not gonna be anybody. Those comments hurt.
Sometimes in classes, like when we talk about the terrorists and people, and they say, oh yeah, these people are terrorists, I'm like, but we're not terrorists.
A Porsche might be.
Some people say, I don't want these illegals working with us, or not working, but working for us.
Of course, the N-word. My dad, we were coming back from a movie or something, but he listens to the radio and they're talking about, gay relationships and gay marriage. And he's like, well, I'm sure happy I don't have any gay people in my family, or I don't have any gay sons.
I got in a fight in 7th grade or 8th grade on the basketball team because a kid, said you're just a nigger like your dad.
He called us apples. And so I was like, okay, why are you calling us apples? And he was like, because back in the day, we used to hang y'all on apple trees.
They're like, do you believe in God? I said, my God. And then she said, well, you're gonna go to hell. Some people just attribute me to be one stereotype that I know I'm not, or they just completely misconstrue my identity as some sort of excuse to defy societal expectations.
Where do we begin? How can this generation write their chapter in the American story of tolerance?
I don't know if it's possible. I don't know if we can come together as the melting pot where we were intended to be.
I'm definitely scared that of persecution in the future. I'm afraid for my boyfriend. I'm afraid of the future that we might have. I'm grateful for the future that we might have, and I'm very, hopeful and optimistic, but I'm afraid of what might occur.
Every single time I read some sort of headline or news article about a transgender man or woman or another trans person who was murdered or raped, I think, will it be me next?
One of the best ways to get past the fear is through immersion or experiences with other people.
There's no excuse to be racist. I choose to see people for who they are.
That requires intentionality. That requires, for example, teachers or professors putting people and putting groups together. That requires, like you mentioned, the first person stepping out. People getting past their fears, getting past their vulnerabilities of what's going to happen. And so it's really important that we are self-aware enough to know what we're doing to contribute.
I think I cope with that by showing people that I'm more than that. I'm not just a person who is assigned female at birth who is unhappy with that. I'm more than just my dysphoria. I'm more than just all the comments that people have made to me. I'm an actual person. I'm not a stereotype. You can only be who you truly are.
Although this generation faces an uncertain future in a polarized society, they are challenged to find answers and make good on the American promise, where all men are created equal.
At the end of the day, if me and a Muslim and a black guy step behind an X-ray screen and the X-ray us all, we're all going to look the same. We're all just going to be skeletons. We're all human beings.